so much, everyone. It's really nice to see some of the very familiar faces that I've only seen virtually. And I'm super looking forward meeting like a lot more people outside. Okay. Today I will be talking about, and you guys probably know me as like the founder of Apples, but today I will be talking about something super special. It's a research that I've done for almost like 4 months, and it's still going on. It's about the psychology of avatars that eventually I'm hoping to feed to companies and to individuals to understand the state of avatars we are in today. So, in whether we are all a Metaverse explorer or not, we all have maintained a certain digital identity. Whether it comes in a form of like an Apple Memoji or a WhatsApp sticker or our social media, we all maintain that certain level of a digital identity. So the fundamental of a digital identity has actually been laid off to us way before the Metaverse comes into the pictures. But in Web3, digital identity is being represented by avatars. But why? Because avatars is actually one of the most foremost important piece in the virtual environments. Whether we use the avatars as for seeing the NFT in a virtual gallery, socializing, or buying something from the vendors, working virtually, we all use avatars, and this makes all avatars becomes very important. Most of the question that I get when I was actually doing this research was, if the fundamental of a digital identity has been laid to us way before Metaverse even become famous in our ears, why is it very important for us to do it deeper now? 2 years ago, I happened to read a book called Disruptive Innovation by a very famous professor in Harvard called Professor Clay Christensen, that's his name. And if you guys are people who are thinking to become an entrepreneur, already an entrepreneur and looking to build like an innovative product, I suggest that you go into this book. So in this book, he was actually talking about in order for a product to be successful, it needs to understand what are users hiring the product to do. And because technology is replaceable, but when we understand what our users are hiring our product for, this is where we are going to be able to win against our competitors. And I have practiced these frameworks way many times with different products, including, of course, Upwells, the community-led product that I built about 2 years ago. With this in mind, I started to do a research to find out what is the jobs to be done, why users use avatars, and how do they see their avatars. This research has run through polling in LinkedIn, in different social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and a virtual being group in Facebook. The objective of this is to find the motivation of why would someone use avatars in order to build a character engagement through themselves with their avatars. Because if there's anything that we learn from a gaming industry, commerce only happens when a users build a character engagement towards their avatars. But of course, in order for us to understand this, like we need to understand the very basic things about the avatars itself. Fast forward to when the data started coming in, we can immediately classify the people into 4 big groups. The first one is people who are actually the group who are seeing avatars as an object. These people only see avatar as an object to functionally get things done. They don't actually need so many attributes. Any attribute would do as long as it gets the jobs to be done. May it be a ball, a banana, or whatever, it's good to represent them. Their intimacy level is very low because they have a very low identification of it with themselves. And the agency needed, so the agency here is a control. The control, a personalization level that they need is super low. So these are the first group of why would someone use their avatars? The second part is people who are using the avatar as a representation of me. These are people who are using their avatar as a real me. They use it for social and practice. The attributes normally needed for them is like the personalities, abilities, behavior, weakness. The intimacy level is met. And the personalization needed for this also met.
It's very good. Quick question.
The third one, and I would say this is one of the interesting one, is a symbiote. Is an extended form when these are the people who are using avatars to close the gap between their real self and their wishful self. The attributes needed are mostly very varied because they're very experimentative with their identity. Their intimacy level are quite high, and the agency needed, the control, the personalization needed for this is met. And the last one, these are people who are using avatars as a tool of human connections. So they use it to escape their real world as a segmentation, and the attributes normally needed is like skin color, hair types, culture, pronouns. The intimacy level is really high, and the agency needed, the personalization needed is also really high. So as the data started to come in, we can see that we can immediately classify all this data into into one of these 4 groups. And the result is, today, this is the state of our avatars. A lot of people see their avatars. 53% of people see avatars as a representation of me. And 26% of them see them as a symbiote. What does this mean? This means that with people seeing avatar as a representation of me and as a symbiote, we can take 1 keywords out of this. People see avatars as an identification, so that's actually the keywords here. People who see the avatars as a representation of me have a more stricter choice of how they would like to present themselves. They have a stricter budget on like how much they want to spend and how much they don't, because they know exactly what they don't want. The difference with as a symbiote, they're more experimentative with their identity, which means these are the people who are more easily influenced to purchase different attributes within the virtual environments, because they use this to close the gap with their ideal self and their real self. To go deeper into this, we did more research and more interview, and from this, these are the things that I can conclude. People who see themselves as a representation of me, they value being recognized like inside and outside gameplay. And because this is a representation of me, they use a lot of their high frequency of their real world reference, like my family, my job, this is my home, this is where I live. And they mostly tend to be extrovert in characteristic. They value social attributes a lot, and they focus on friends. And when I say friends here, I mean they focus on social. And while as a symbiote are using their avatars as a digital problem solver. So as least if they can like have the connection between their daily life is the better for them. They have about 180 degrees like between them and how they present their avatars. They mostly tend to be introverts, and they have infrequent reference to the form of the avatars itself. So it could be a human, it could be a she, a he, an object. So because that tends to be more experimentative. And finally, the very big difference here, people who falls under this symbiote, they focus on themselves more than focus on social, because they are here to close the gap between them and themselves. Okay, up until this point, I'm sure some of you are kind of thinking, where do I fall into? Where am I? Or maybe you see yourself as like a little bit hybrid between some of the personas. The interesting part is that when we show these stats to people while we're doing an interview with them, some of them actually claim that I falls under these 2 personas. I'm a hybrid. I falls under these 2 personas. So most of the people are actually seeing themselves as a hybrid between the representation of me and the symbiote. While doing this research, I did a little bit experimentation with myself as well, because in order for me to understand like how would someone build a character attachment between them and their avatars, I have to do a bit of an embodiment experience. And so I did a little bit embodiment experience through Jenny's avatars. Does some of you have used Jenny's here? No. It's a very interesting avatars platforms. Currently, they are inviting more creators to build a personalized style while they're building their secondary marketplace. And I could go into, and because while I was doing this research and still going on, I go into so many different platforms of like the pro and the cons of different platforms, but this is not like the things I will talk about today. This is the first embodiment experience that I did. This is the second one that I did. And this is a collaboration between Ready Player Me and Tommy Hilfiger. Did someone here claim this collaboration? So this is a very interesting collaboration that they did. But the insight here is that it made me go into their offline store to find the same clothes. So there might be something here that we can look about like how to, for brands especially, like to connect these virtual environments and their offline store. And the last one, this is actually a collaboration that I did with DressX. And I was incentivized with their digital accessories. And as soon as, hopefully, as soon as their collaboration with Meta is released, hopefully I can use this Mondrian jacket in her workroom, I think, in Horizon World or workroom. So, what does this mean? The idea of this research is to give an insight to platforms that each platforms that we are building today, each platforms that you guys are encountering with, that they all have their own target market. And for as long as they can offer the right attributes to their target market, that's where commerce is going to happen. It goes back to about understanding who are my users in these platforms. This is a little bit sneak peek about the current research that I'm doing right now. Move forward from like to understand deeper what does self-identification mean. So this is still ongoing, emotion, embodiment, and style. So I hope to cover this a little bit later. And this is currently in my backlog. I would like to understand better about like the current level of intimacy, the level of control and personalization that is needed for different user group, and their preferred attributes that eventually it can connect commerce. And if you are someone who are interested in avatars and would like to help me with my research as well, would give your opinion, scan this QR code and put in your thoughts here, and at the end of this research, I will email you guys about the stats of this research and where is our avatars state are in today. I'm gonna pause here for a bit for someone who wants to do this. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
No problem.
And because my time is already done and this is my last slide, I'm going to hand it over to Lance. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation.
All right, good. All right, so thank you, Sonia. So now that Sonia has basically set the context and our understanding of identity within virtual spaces, I'm going to assume we agree that that identity and that form of self-expression that you get through your avatars is something that needs to be protected, because a lot of people may be critics of being overprotective within social spaces. They'll just say, it isn't real, it's only digital, why are you making such a big deal out of it? While at the same time they're claiming that you can go into these social virtual worlds and be your true self. However, it's not a simple matter. So Metaverse security, like all of the tools that we introduce within these social virtual worlds, have the opportunity to be abused. Actually, I was listening to Jasmine O next door saying exactly the same thing. So if we have a simple feature, for example, reporting other players for harassing behavior, I mean, that works sometimes, but at the same time, the harasser, they know these tools very often better than the person who is being victimized. So it can be used against them as well. So we can't only rely on these simplistic tools. So there are a few things that I think are under-discussed as solution, because the approaches like blocking or muting or kicking someone out, these are brute force tactics for maintaining security, but they can be abused. Some other things that we can look at include platform onboarding. So how do you talk about security when you bring someone into the platform? Real-time moderation, meaning watching people's behavior inside the platform, and how public or private spaces are used differently. So when you're onboarding someone into a new platform, I'm sure most of you have used a few. Maybe you've been in AltSpace, VRChat, Engage, Rec Room, and you went through the process of learning. So first you learn how to move, you learn how to teleport, you learn what kind of activities you can do, whether it's for education or gaming. You learn about the types of behaviors you can engage in, but very often neglected is protection, like how to protect yourself. And then the question is, why? Like, why do I need to protect myself? I should be safe. This is just a digital experience, right? But people people overlook that and become surprised later because nobody told them that like someone will troll you. People are toxic. People are less and less naive now that it's like coming into the mainstream and becoming more common. But for years now, people seem surprised, and often it gets into the news cycle because it was just unexpected. So the problem is, though, as you know, as like a project manager or something, so if you onboard people into a new social virtual world, they have a limited amount of patience. Like there's a limited amount of work they want to do just to experience it. So those protective tools, they often get left out. So on a web page, we would call this a bounce rate. So if you spend a longer time like clicking through things on a page, you're just going to give up. And the same applies to social VR apps. So when they get in, because they passed through this protective thing, they had this idea that it's going to be fine, it's a way to connect, it's very social. But then when you get in there, you'll find that because you weren't adequately prepared, people can be quite ugly. So it doesn't always happen, but it's just a matter of luck. So people are taking pictures. Okay. So we can't assume just because we shine a light on the problem too, that the problem will go away, because the contributing factors are still there. Those factors being anonymity, meaning you don't necessarily know who you're talking to. They're just using a different name. You don't know where they are in the world or anything about them. So that will contribute to toxic behavior because there's no accountability. So if they behave badly, who's going to know? So there is a paradox, though, as well, because sometimes we ask the platforms to watch user behavior more, but at the same time, we don't want to be watched because we're good people. So if like people complain often about that level of security from centralized platforms. So yeah, please don't watch my behavior because I don't trust you. You're going to use it in a way I don't consent to. But at the same time, I want you to like watch out for me and make sure other people aren't abusing me too. Yeah, I don't have time for that. So yeah, just the same thing. So you don't want to be giving over all of your information to a centralized platform because because they're going to apply it in different ways. I mean, they answer to shareholders, they're opportunistic. So of course, the elephant in the room is advertising. So they're going to take any data you can, any keyword that they pick up on, and like funnel it to smart advertising. But the thing is, with all of the surveillance that goes on, and the more that goes on, we are opening up ourselves to privacy risks that we just don't anticipate. So there is in public and private spaces a connection between like how open you make a space and how much of a security risk there is and how much moderation is needed. For example, Rec Room is one platform that has increasingly introduced voice moderation tools just to hear the kind of language you're using, and if you use some of these keywords, you're going to get flagged as possibly being harassing. But one place this is clear, this is from VR Chat, where you can decide what kind of platform you're going into. So you can go into a completely public and open space, but you have no control over who is there, and the person you find there might not, well, they might be toxic or abusive. At the same time, if you have friends or friends plus or invite only, that is a way to kind of guard the door so that if you invite the people that you want to be there, you can assume that they're not going to treat you badly, and you always have the tools to remove them if they do. So because, I mean, as Sonia said, identity is important in these spaces, and we need to find ways to protect ourselves because it can do real harm. Like if somebody is abusive to you in a way that you're very sensitive to. But we're also in a virtual space where we can look into new and interesting solutions. So these are a couple I found from a paper called The Social Metaverse, which I recommend looking into. It had a few like replacing your avatar with a dummy avatar. If you're in a harassing situation, you just hit a few buttons and it looks like you're there, but you're actually somewhere else. And you can also introduce the element of disguise. So like you disappear to a different place and you're completely disguised temporarily so that the abuser is confused or something like that. And it's somewhere I've never seen anywhere else, but why not give it a try? So, that is like my thoughts on a few different approaches to metaverse security, why it's challenging, but why we can think of novel approaches to try something new. And this is my background as well. So, all right, thank you. Yeah. Oh, and this is Sonia's. Please take a picture.